on Isak, I think it's complicated because I was actually saying to you before the call, Dot, and I actually don't think any party is really in the wrong, and I don't think anyone has to be in the wrong here. Like, I don't think we have to point fingers, and I don't think anyone is necessarily done anything wrong. He wants to leave, but he's under contract. But from what I'm led to believe, and this isn't from any inside source or anything, it's mainly just what I've read. It's listening to podcasts, listening to other journalists talking about it. He kind of was promised that, wasn't he? I think like that was kind of the deal. You stay another season, you stay this season, and then you can get your move this summer. And I think he's done everything asked of him. I think he kind of waited patiently. I don't think he was kicking and screaming before this summer. And now the Wolf have come at the door, the Wolf being Liverpool, and he wants his move. He wants what he was. It might not be on paper, but I feel like there was maybe a gentleman's agreement with Newcastle, with Eddie Howe.
The first thing I was going to ask, Tim, the basic rule of contracts is, John, show me the paper it was written on. If you go to court with that,
the verbal agreement is not worth the paper it hasn't been written on.
Yeah.
For sure. But as you said, Dotun, though, it's, player power, and football's changed. Is he more of a commodity than even the club itself, to be honest, which sounds horrible. It sounds awful to Newcastle fans. But another thing about it that I just wanted to touch on before Tim talks about it quickly is, like, I was watching his car, on Sky Sports News, and they got a reporter outside the training ground, and his car goes through. And it's been doing it every day, like Isak watch, as if like following his car is going to make any difference this transfer. They all just stand back. They almost applaud him. And like the shit they've been saying, that people have been, the abuse he's been getting online. But when there's actually a man there, when there's actually a human being going through, everyone, kind of, no one would actually say that sort of thing to his face. So I think it's just a sad indictment of like online culture, which is not just in football, which is just that, that's the world we live in now, unfortunately. I just think it's a nasty, I don't like that it's got to this stage. I think for everyone, it's best that it's resolved. And you're right, he is under contract, but at the same time, if there were conversations had, and also if they get a replacement, which it's looking like might happen, then it probably will all happen. It will probably all fall into place, won't it?
Tim, I have a lot of interest in this because Alexander Isak is a Swedish national player. I think there has been something lost in translation. I really, really do mean that. I think it's the way Swedish people see British people. It's like, we were in the 1940s or 50s, where an Englishman's word was his bond, where the long arm of the Metropolitan Police reached you wherever you were in the world, running away from your great train robbery, even if you were in Rio. And those days are long gone. When a team says to you, all right, lad, just give us one more good season and we promise you, like, the world will be your oyster. So what was the accent? Is that what that look in your face was?
I have no idea what that was.
Something lost in translation.
That may well have been the accent of the Saudi ownership, I think, more than anything else.
It was actually the accent of a Swedish guy who was representing Newcastle in their conversations with Alexander Isak. And if anybody else would like me to represent or be the middleman interpreter, you know where I am. No, for real though, for real. He should have got it on paper, but also I genuinely think this is part of what people think of Britain or British people that doesn't exist anymore. Your word is your bond.
Maybe, but one thing about the statement that just comes to me immediately, because my impression of Swedish people is they come from a very collective culture. And the top of the statement is almost as if the purpose of Newcastle United FC last year was to give Isak a support structure to be voted into the team of the year, which seems like a bizarre way of looking at things to me. So maybe there's misunderstanding going both ways. Tommy, how do you think this is going to play out? And have the days of letting them rot in the reserves, have they gone now? Are the star players so valuable and so that you've got to let them get their way one way or another? How do you think it's going to play out?
I think he either, as I said, it depends if all the dominoes start moving. If Newcastle can sign a replacement, I think if they sign a replacement, then
I
he
had the
goes.
solution. I had the solution. No one listened to
What?
me, which was
What?
Darwin Nunez going one way and Isak and Money
I listened.
Darwin Nunez
I
That
and
would have
Money
been
listened.
going one
fun.
way.
I
Yeah.
listened to you, and I did. I think did I not say that was the evolution?
Yeah, you did. Yes, you did.
It's an
Yeah.
old joke.
Why don't you wheel that line out one more time? Why not? Why not? I'm sure you can sweat that out a little bit more.
Tim, I'm taking after you, mate. You sweat
Yeah.
'em. Why not
Hang
me?
on. Guilty as
But
charged, Your Honour.
I think the alternative option is if that doesn't happen, if he stays at Newcastle, I don't think he will rot in the reserves. I think he'll want to put himself back on the market.
But
They'll
it is a challenge, isn't it, to the
yeah,
Newcastle no dickhead policy,
yeah.
because he will be seen as acting like a dickhead. So that's a
Which is
huge
interesting
challenge for Eddie Howe.
Which is interesting when you see what their assistant manager looks like, but that's a different discussion for a different day.
No personal stuff. This is the
No, I
Decisions
know.
Not
I'm
Made
only joking.
podcast, you know.
I'm only
And
joking.
we've all got heads that are like that, by the way, when you look at it, you know, from a
But
cartoon perspective.
it's happened before, hasn't it? That players go for these moves away and they don't get them and they end up back in the team. Because obviously as a Man United fan, we've got there's 5 or 6 of these sort of players who are in a similar situation. It's obviously not as high profile, but I don't know. As I said, that Dotun said before we were on this call, players have the power in this market. But I do think if he doesn't get the move eventually, there surely is a pathway back in. It depends it depends if you think he's been a dickhead or not, which obviously Newcastle do. But
I think Newcastle in particular need to look at the history of these kind of player protests, stroke demands, all ever since Pierre van Hooijdonk.
Hooijdonk, yeah.
Yeah, when
the big Hooijdonk, as I think Ron Atkinson used to call him. That simplifies things a little bit, doesn't it?
Okay, the big Hooijdonk. Let's go for that. After he stuffed Nottingham Forest, because remember they got relegated as a result of his refusal to play. They should be looking at the history and think, well, what have we got here? We've got a player who doesn't want to play for us. If we force him to play for us, he's not going to be playing with his heart in it, for one thing. And secondly, his value diminishes, surely. They're asking 150 million, I think, for him, which would be absurd in any case. Liverpool probably might push up to 140 from what I'm hearing. That's absurd. But next season, we've seen that happen so many times over the last couple of seasons. Osimhen, remember Victor Osimhen, the Nigerian centre forward that was supposed to come to the Premier League for 100 million or so, and then he's ended up in the Turkish league. I'm not saying he's not doing well there, but clearly his value has diminished over the course of just one season. And that, I think, might sharpen Newcastle's thinking. And plus, we were talking the other day, sorry, just final point on the World Football Phone-In. At the BBC, we were talking, Tim, weren't we, about this financial fair play stuff that's hampered Newcastle's ability to sign players. If they get Isak off their books, well, bingo, here we go again. We're in the game.
Yeah, and also, I just think at this point, and I feel like they kind of have to be stubborn and they have to show their own strength and power now. But I agree, Dotun. Like, wouldn't you, even if you got 120 million for him, because something that not a lot of people that I've seen anyway talking about is his injury record. Like it's not fantastic. Like he usually there seems to be an injury most seasons with him. So breaking record transfer fees for someone who has that background, and it might be fine. It might just be circumstantial, and it might not be. I don't know the full details of them, but 145 million for someone who does have a bit of an injury record seems a bit steep for me. So I don't know if I'm not a director of football, but I'd just lower the price and and go and buy some other players.